So I'd like to introduce you to somebody that is actually very near and dear to us, partly because I have known this woman for several years and was actually, full disclosure, was very fortunate to be able to pull her into our MDIIO team after seeing how special she was in some of my previous partnerships. So I would like to introduce you to Sarah. And Sarah is actually works with us at MDIIO. But really, where Sarah is especially good at is I met her. I would say probably like 5 or 6 years ago now, when I was had my publishing deal at BMG, and she was an exceptional person at the company. She led many initiatives within the company, which I'll let her sort of brag about. I don't want to steal your thunder, Sarah. And then she left BMG and she went over to Native Instruments, the famous instrument company and software plugins, and she started a bunch of very cool things over there that you guys probably know about too. And on top of everything, Sarah is a shredding guitar player. So, and that's a big part of what we do here is we really want to have people that are working with us that not only understand what songwriters and musicians go through every day, but are oftentimes songwriters and musicians themselves, on top of what they do. So without further ado, by the way, do is my first word in Wordle every day. Without further ado, I would like to introduce to you Sarah Martinico from MDIIO, but also from SL Marketing. So hey, Sarah.
Hey, thank you so much. That was beautiful.
Thank you. Well, we'll send a copy to your mom so she could be as proud of us as we are of you.
Thank you. Um, do you want me to talk about the Avid stuff? Because I don't want to go too off
Well,
subject.
no, I mean, give us like a 3 minute color and context around the introduction that I just made. Talk about what you did with Avid at BMG. Talk about what you did with Native Instruments. Talk about a little bit what you're doing now, and then actually in a little bit of a twist of events, Sarah actually has a presentation. So same thing as we always do. You can watch the presentation. Please, by all means, add emails in. Add questions into the chat. I'll be moderating those, and from time to time interrupting Sarah just to get a
Mhm.
little bit more clarity. Yeah, we're here we go. So yeah, Sarah, tell us, brag a bit.
Okay, cool. Well, I mean, I guess to dive into the Avid partnership. So, like 5 years ago, I was able to put together a partnership with Pro Tools and with BMG. And it was basically the first ever like royalty bearing stems that we were able to break down. So it's basically stems packaged from major label catalogs. So you're talking about the hugest samples from like the 80s disco, the 80s R&B, the 90s electronic house era. So we were able to package that. It was the first ever product in the music industry internationally. And I think Justin, you were part of like the product launch for it. I can't remember exactly what it was, but he was part of
Yes, yeah, I was.
that. So yeah, no, it was super dope. It was in Billboard magazine, it was in DJ magazine. We basically beat everyone to it. Universal Music didn't do it, Sony, and I don't think anyone's done it to this day because it's extremely hard to.
Having clearable licensed samples within your DAW was
That's a whole
pretty
nother conversation. Yeah.
pretty fresh. Yeah, for sure. And
Yeah.
then and then you left BMG and pivoted over to Native Instruments.
Yes. So at Native Instruments, I work directly with your biggest music producers, your biggest artists from like your reggaeton artists, your R&B, to your biggest music publishers, your labels. So I work directly with them, curating products for like the outboard gear, the machina, which is the drum machine, their keyboards, and basically just put together marketing strategies for them. So it was really cool, just working in the creative aspect of like the audio production all the way to the marketing side of things as
So
well.
there's very few people. The point is there's very few people that understand production, musicianship, songwriting, samples, copyrights, publishing,
Mm-hmm.
marketing. That's why Sarah's here. So Sarah, we're going to pass it over to you because I know that you have a little bit more of a formal presentation, which is cool. This is again why we have her here because she's organized and she makes us look better.
I haven't done a presentation since like high school, so yeah.
Well, so again, we'll kind of free flow this, and as you're going through, maybe I'll ask for a little bit more clarity around stuff that you're working on, and yeah, let's go through here. And of course, kind of like Paula, Sarah also is, I think, open to working directly with artists and projects in helping as well do what they do. So, you're up, Sarah.
Okay, awesome. So I guess to give you a little bit of a background for today's event. So I'm going to go through with you what I would do for an actual client. The first step, whether I'm interviewing a client, whether it's an artist, a music tech company like MDIIO, or whether it's a company that has like an audio product, is I set up a call with them. My goal is to see the weaknesses within a company or with an artist and see where they're trying to go in the next 6 months and the next 12 months. So for instance, if I'm working with an artist, I want to know basically what are their accolades, or are you starting from scratch? Do we have any branding? Do you have any hits that you've worked with? Anything that you can tell me that understands who you are, where you've been, and where you're trying to go gives me an idea as to how I'm going to work with you. And the reason I say that is because working with any caliber client, whether it's a beginning artist or if it's someone who's super established, it takes so much time to plan a release, whether it's a single release, an EP, an album, or if you're planning for a partnership or a tour. There's so much work, and it's not just, hey, we're going to upload it, distribute it in 2 weeks, and that's it. So hopefully this gives you an overview as to what it entails, at least for me. Please ask questions because I'm going to kind of skim through it really fast. Not every person's going to need all of this, so bear with me if it's like a little bit basic. Some of it might be a little bit more advanced. Let me see. Okay, awesome. 1 second. All right. So first things first, when I'm working with a client, I like to dive into the branding. So who is the artist I'm working with? This is so important because when you go into the music world, this is your first impression. So the branding isn't just the way you look. It's also, you know, your messaging on socials, the way you look in terms of like the messaging basically within partnerships. It can be the branding in your music. It can be the way you present yourself in videos on social media. So branding is everything from the way you look, the way you talk, to the way you want to be seen. So this is something that's really important. A lot of people don't have access to hire a logo and a branding company. So what I like to do that's kind of like the easy way out, Justin's mentioned this on other calls, is Pinterest is my best friend. So I go to Pinterest for everything. And you can see in this example here, I like to have an initial call with someone, really get a vibe as to who they are. You can be completely different when it comes to being an artist as to who you are as a person in your personal life. So you could say, hey, I want to be an edgy rock star. I want to be like, I don't know, Steven Tyler, or I want to be like Beyonce, whoever. I start to put together color schemes. We look at photos that kind of describe who your personality is, what your lifestyle is. You know, do you want to drive Maseratis? Do you like Toyotas better? We really try to get technical. What are the fine things that really describe who you are?
Now, can I ask a question, Sarah? So one of the things that you're talking about here is you're bouncing, you're sort of having like a very like free flowing conversation with an artist that you're working on, right? Or with a company or with right? What if you don't have that counterpoint to your thought? Like, is this something that like you could pull a friend in? Is this something that like you know what I mean? Like, do you have to have a Sarah in your life in order to have this conversation? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, how do you self curate, or how do you bounce this off, or like again, can you sort of like engage a friend? Um,
Yeah, I mean, I guess my only worry about engaging a friend is like sometimes we have friends who are going to tell you something looks good all the time. That's why I don't like going to friends for certain things. Like I need to go to someone who really has an idea as to what I'm trying to do with my business or with my artistry. Um, so it's kind of hard because I know like when you go and hire someone who does branding and logos, it's very expensive. But I think you should try to find someone who's worked in the music industry, at least in the marketing respect, if that makes sense. Just so you don't
okay.
waste your time. I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to, I guess what I'm trying to say is in absence of having that person right there for you, are there
Mm.
alternatives that you can kind of
Yeah.
lean on?
I mean, you can go to your friends, but I don't know. Like a lot of my friends don't know marketing or branding. So that's why I'm hesitant
Well,
to.
okay, okay. Well, let me ask you another question. The next question I have for you is, so the idea of of creating, like you know, we talked about this. I love Pinterest boards, right? That's like this. It's such an easy way to kind of gather your thoughts in a non-verbal manner to a degree, right? Like a lot of people have a lot of ideas, right? So do you think in your mind the idea is gather a lot of ideas, or really try and distill and filter down into like the just like three or four that are very consistent across the brand?
Yeah, I think the goal is to really get it down to 3 or 4 ideas that you really like. But you don't have to start with, one idea. You can mess with a couple different ones, but it really needs to dwindle down really fast. So it's like we're talking about maybe 1 or 2 different logos that you really like the fonts. Look at maybe 1 or 2 color schemes that are very similar. Um, yeah, I'm
Right. So
trying
so
like,
just creating some consistency across all of those sort of different verticals, whether it's your images, whether it's the fonting choices, whether it's the aesthetic of your IG feed or whatever, right? It just they all have to sort of be cohesive and correlate, correct?
yeah, yeah. So when you choose what logo you're going to go with, what type of font, your secondary font, the color scheme, it's all going to be very cohesive and consistent across all of your social platforms.
Well,
And
one of
then,
the things
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, one of the things that we've done even for us is we've built like brand guidelines. I don't really see a difference why you wouldn't have an artist. Your artistry is your brand, right? Um, so yeah, Alexandra asked a question. I'm not really sure. Maybe she can clarify. Which is, she said, PDF on steps to take for a single release? Question mark. I'm not really sure if that's a question. Maybe Alexandra, you can
Like
be a
if I
little.
have one,
I'm sorry.
I don't know if he or she's asking if this is a PDF that I can share with them. Possibly later, but I don't, this is a whole presentation, but I think he wants something simplified, or she, sorry.
Okay. Well, thank you for letting me jump in and ask the questions. And again, please, everyone, just jump in and ask questions as we go. And yes, Mackenzie, you can ask a stylish friend. I don't know if you're putting your hand up for that, but perhaps you are. Everybody, hit Mackenzie. He'll be your counterpoint. Anyway, continue. Go ahead.
Okay. Cool. So, oops, hold on 1 second. How do you go back? Sorry. Okay. So part 2 of the pre-release branding strategies is really figuring out what your artwork is going to be for your release. Also planning your photo shoot. So once you have your branding established, all of this will trickle into your photo shoot. So you need a photo shoot for, press out assets, which is your photos, social media assets. We're looking at possibly music video. So like, what are you going to be wearing during the music video as well? Let me see. All right. So the next slide.
Sorry, can we go back for one more thing? Sorry, Sarah. I just want to get one. I just want to talk a little bit because I think that sometimes, when you're a brand new artist, you would look at these things and go, "Oh, great! Now I got to hire a photographer. Now I got to hire somebody to help me." Just right, like it just looks a lot like money out, money out, money out, money out. And one of the things that I think is really important is, I've always said this: you're an artist that needs photo shoots and artwork. There are artists out there that need to find people to shoot, that need to find opportunities. Find a young kid with a camera that is really eager and hungry. Try and go out and branch into broader communities. So it's not just like, oh yeah, well, I'll pay somebody to do the work. There is opportunities out there. There is quid pro quo. I think to be able to go out and get creative, especially when there's budgetary concerns. There's a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of people out there looking to do deals. So I would say also, and by the way, reach out through social media, find people on Instagram, connect with those people. There are always people looking to also put content on within their brand. So yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to kind of pop that out there.
Yeah, and not all of this has to be super expensive. You can find people to do it for cheap. It's interns. Sometimes people can do this yourself, DIY. With photo shoots nowadays, it's like you can use an iPhone. It's not the best, but it gets by. But I always think like when you're spending money on yourself, you're really investing. So it's going to be something long term. That's why I say do it right the first time. The great thing about technology is like when I work with my clients, we have an iPhone, so we practice the poses. So we practice poses for the photo shoot. We practice doing reels. So all of this can really have the best impact when you go to socials for your marketing strategies, or if you're doing partnerships, it's like everything is executed to the best quality for your first impression.
Awesome. You may now proceed. Thank
I
you.
know, I was like, okay. Okay, so the next part is administration. This is all pre-release still. This is one of the most important things that I always cover with my clients. If you're doing a release with a featured artist or with a label or anyone, always make sure you have the splits and any other details of like what the marketing requirements are that you're with your label, or if you have a feature on your track, what is the featured artist responsible for? What you're paying out to the featured artists, what the splits are. All of that needs to be signed before you do a release. So try to get that done ahead of time. Also, make sure to get your song registered. So we're talking about with your PRO. So in the US, it's ASCAP, BMI, or CSAC. Make sure you get your song registered with Sound Exchange. If you don't have, I don't know what the proper term is, Justin. I always call it like a music admin collection, like through a distribution company. You can do that, or Song Trust. You always want to do MLC, which is a mechanical licensing collective. And then also copyright your song at the copyright office. The best way to go through the copyright office is to do a group of unpublished works. That's the cheapest way. Once your song is out, it's just more expensive.
So there's a few things here before we sort of like gloss over this and move on. I think that, you know, one of the things, I'm going to just put this out there, MDIIO, obviously, you know, if you, I'm really hoping you guys are members of MDIIO, because this is what this is all about, is building this community here. So obviously within MDIIO, yes, Reiner, thank you. Within MDIIO, there is split sheets where you put in your information, your co-writer information, your email addresses, who owns what piece of the songs. That's all in there. Those are all things that are very, very happy. That we're very happy to provide for you. That's in there all for free. If you're a Canadian, we do have integrations with SOCAN, so that is a PRO. That's a Canadian PRO, where you can register your songs directly through. We've really tried to make it super simple. There are a lot of admin publishers out there and admin companies tied to your release. Things like InGrooves, right? There's Song Trust. There are places where you can do all of your own admin directly, sort of like DIY style. It is not complicated, but I think Sarah's 100% exactly right. These are little bits of administrative things that you need to be doing. I'm not as bullish on the copyright office. I mean, that's definitely helpful in the US. Songs are immediately copywritten as soon as they're actually written. There's a lot of digital proof, especially with DAWs. So it's not as dire as it used to be back then. It's a good bit of safety. It's a good safety precaution, but that's not 100% important to do. Mackenzie, no one talks about copyright offices in Canada. It's just American. It is predominantly American, but again, as I kind of went through, it's not as significant as making sure that your splits are right, because as Sarah indicated, you know, when songs start coming out and there's earnings to be had, you know, those split sheets become that's your commodity right there. Matina asked a question. I have a PRO, but keep forgetting how to define it. Can you describe a PRO? Sure, absolutely. So Matina, PRO is a performance rights organization, like as Sarah indicated, ASCAP, BMI, CSAC. In Canada, it's SOCAN. In the UK, it's PRS. In Japan, it's JazzRack. So anyway, every country in the world basically has a PRO, and a PRO's job is to collect all of the public performance earnings for any of those songs. And all of these PROs have cross-border agreements. So for example, you might be a Canadian writer, but ASCAP collects any of your US-based royalties. That money goes back to SOCAN. They collect on your behalf. Also, let's say you are not a non-Canadian, SOCAN will collect all of the performance royalties and then send those back to your PRO of origin. I hope that makes sense. So any performance royalties, radio, they do collect on streaming, any television performance royalties, even jukebox royalties. There's a whole long list of it, and that if you went to your PRO, ASCAP.com or SOCAN, you could probably find a list over there. So yeah, I would say that's probably the best description of a PRO. For Canada, do you know if we have to sign up with both MROC and Connect, or can we just do Resound only? That's a really good question. I don't have an answer for that question, unfortunately. I'm not living in Canada the way that I used to, so you caught me on that one, Clarissa. You're gonna have to do some of your own research. Mateen says, but your checks come from your distributor, not from your PRO. No, your distributor collects on any mechanical royalties. Your PRO collects on any performance royalties. That's really where the big difference is. Perfect.
Okay,
Muso.ai is going to change the system, hopefully. Anyway, continue.
cool. No, that was awesome. So this is really for US based artists. Let me see. Okay, pre-release marketing and social administration. These accounts here that are listed are some of the basic accounts that if you're starting out, or if you need to check everything and you're already an artist out there on all the platforms, these accounts really help you track your engagement, track your demographics, maximize your marketing. Let me see, and just track anything. So for instance, Shazam, this is a great tool for all artists. I'm sure we all know about it. Apple Music, artists for Amazon is new. A lot of these accounts I always see go unclaimed, or people just don't register for them. Artists for Amazon is new. I think it's been around for 2 months, but it's very similar to Spotify. You register your artistry and you basically submit playlisting, you create your account, watch all the demographics pop through. Pandora and Pandora Amp is a really great one. This one is really tricky, and I only suggest it for people who are getting a lot more streams. So Pandora Amp functions in a really unique way, and you're able to basically do voiceovers. So what I mean by that is, like, if you have a song that comes out, you can do like narratives before the song or after the song, and it can be you talking about the song. It can be you talking about you as an artist. So it's a really cool marketing tool. But Pandora only opens, I don't know what the right, or unlocks if you have X amount of streams per week. And I think it's 10 streams, if I remember correctly. YouTube and ads account, those are really important for advertising. Make sure that you claim your Instagram, Facebook, etc. And TikTok in the past 6 months to a year have really become super important for launching music campaigns and releases, which I was super against last year, but that's just the new thing. So make sure you have all your artist accounts set up and also claimed.
Yeah, and make sure you come up with really cute dances for your songs too. I'm kidding.
Wow.
I don't know. I'm just, whatever.
Just envision it now. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So these are some other really great tools that I use for just marketing. So you need to have a really great website. I usually use one sheets for like your medium-sized artists. So a one sheet is really great for sending out for partnerships, sending out for radio, for promotions. If anyone needs to get an idea as to what your artist has done, always have a one sheet on hand. You can also do a one sheet that's very specific towards the release that you're doing. So the release one sheet will basically have your marketing plans in it. It can have your pre-save link in it. It can have a private streaming link. So you can send out something like this directly to your radio promoters. So it's really great for them to track what you're doing for the release, and they kind of just follow along and support the marketing as you go. A link tree is really great. A link tree I don't always use for marketing a release, but it's kind of like an in-between link. So if you're in between releases, a link tree basically holds all of your information, like your recent press releases, anything cool you want to share. If you want to put, I don't know, a product that you're pushing, a latest release, collaboration, it's a place just to hold all those links. You can put it on Instagram, etc. Feature FM is my go-to pre-save platform. I love Feature FM because it populates on the back end. I think it's the easiest and most effective pre-save company. So what I love about this is you can really track where all your clicks are coming from during a pre-save. So you can create custom links for Instagram, for your press releases, for your website, for Facebook, and that really gives you a competitive edge if you're trying to figure out who's clicking, where they're coming from. You can also use Feature FM for ads and retargeting. So it's a really, really great investment, even if you're paying, I don't know what it is now. It's like $20 a month for the artist. I really highly suggest that over using like a DistroKid pre-save where they only give you like 2 or 3 options to work with. So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I want to. So there's before we jump. I don't. Were you about to jump off because we have a few questions here?
No, go ahead.
One of the things I don't know if you guys I mean, I know my mom reads the blogs that I do every week, so she's a real big fan. But if you're not reading the blogs, we're actually doing a blog this week about writing your own bio, and so it's just something that maybe you should be thinking about and reading and kind of doing that because the one sheet. One of the things that I say is that if you're not interesting, nobody will be interested. So you have to really kind of be very considerate of that, how you're putting your bio together, and that is a big part of the one sheet, right? Like why are we going to care? Why are we, if you have any, thank you, Clarissa, a gold star for you, says she loves the blogs and they're so awesome and helpful. Love reading them. Mateen, you can find those blogs if you go to wearemdio.com. I think it's /blog. You'll see them. There's a whole bunch of them. There's about 30 or 40 of them. I don't know. But what I was saying was, even if your story is, if you had 100 Instagram followers last month and you have 200 Instagram followers this month, right? You have 100% increase in your followers. Like any of these little stories are all little parts of what are going to sell you. If you grew up in a shanty in Haiti and now you've made your way to America and like these are all interesting parts of your stories. We need to know who you are, and that's a big part of the one sheet. In who you've worked with. One of the strategies that I've done with some artists that I've worked with in the past, and this actually worked pretty incredibly with a rock band called Council. We had a budget to make the record, and I had this idea. Well, let's hire some. Let's go cut some drums at East West Studios. Let's go, and we hired a guy named Howie Weinberg to master the record. We hired a guy by the name of Mark Needham. Again, full disclosure, we had a little bit of a budget, and then by the end of it, their bio was. They recorded this album in the same room where Beach Boys recorded Pet Sounds, and it was mixed by the same guy that mixed The Killers and Chris Isaac, and it was mastered by the same guy. So they were actually able to create a story around who they were, just rather than just, hey, we're 3 brothers from Rochester. And so you really find clever ways to tell your story. Was kind of basically where I was going with this. Again, if you're not interesting, you won't be interested. And what I'll do right now, Mateen, is I'll put a link to those blogs in this chat, so look out for that in a moment. Angela asks a question. Does Feature FM take you straight to the streaming platform? I noticed DistroKid and others make people log in. That's where I lose people in the pre-save process.
So they make you log into DistroKid. Is that what she's saying?
I think that's what she's saying, yeah.
Okay.
They make you log into like your social media platform, like your Facebook or your Spotify account or your Apple Music account, like manually, even if you have the app downloaded on your phone. And I notice like people will click on my story when I share the link on socials, but then once I lose them in the process when they have to take an extra 2 minutes or a minute to sign into their actual accounts. Does FM still do that or no?
Not that I'm aware of. It's always been really easy for me with Feature FM. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of if there's any blockers, because like the way you set up with Feature FM is it basically takes you to your favorite streaming platform. Like for me, it's Spotify. I'm always logged in, but the way Feature FM works, if you set the settings right, it always redirects you back to your favorite. So I've never had any issues. It's never asked me to log into anything. So I don't know. That's a part of why I just go to Feature FM, because it's always super simple.
That's great.
And you get a 2-week trial for free as well. So you can try it.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. These are all great questions, by the way. Thank you so much for jumping in. Again, and I think that just again, before we move on, Sarah, you're giving us some great information. And not only are you giving us great information, I think that there is the through line here is that as an independent artist, there is work to be done. It's not just about recording and releasing music. It's about promoting yourself. It's about your branding. It's about thinking very clearly and cohesively about how you're telling your own story And this is work that needs to be done. You don't have to hire somebody to run your MailChimp campaigns. You don't have to hire somebody to reach out to sync companies. Again, that's a big part of what Hyper Audio is about to do, and which we're going to talk about, because you guys all get access to this 100% for free. You know, you could find people to put websites together. You know, if you're even remotely clever, you can do it yourself on Wix. Like, there's a lot of work that you could do on your own. You don't have to hire people to do this stuff for you.
It's a lot of work though, as one person. And it's the one issue I see is like, as a creative, as an artist, they're focusing on the song. So I would suggest try to get someone to be that second pair of eyes, no matter what, because you don't want all of that going onto you and then you burn out. So it's not just like you're going to be famous after one release. It's going to be years of work. So
yes, and compounding it and building and growing, and yeah, exactly.
yeah, it's just like running a business. You can't do one product, let it sit, and not do marketing and not do business development strategies. It's a constant work. And just setting strategies. It's like, what are your goals for this week? What are your goals for 6 months? How do you get there? How do you connect the dots to make those things possible?
Agreed. Also, everybody, I've done this in the past. I put my email address in the chat here, jgray@MDIIO.com. Feel free to reach out to me anytime.
Really quick. So I saw Stevens had a comment in here. Future FM has a high price point. I don't see them doing anything different than Linktree. So they're actually two different companies and they have two different functions. So the Future FM is for pre-saving. So Linktree kind of doesn't do any pre-saves as far as I know, but Linktree holds links for you to showcase within your social media. So just clarifying that. Okay, cool. I have so much to cover in 30 minutes, so I'm going to keep going. Not all of this is required for a first release, but this is what I do for a lot of clients. Press and publicity is also a great option if you have a story that I feel like you could compete with nowadays. And the only reason I say that is because there's a lot of tension, of course, so like with the war that's going on, and a lot of stories are taking place, like they're taking a lot of space, basically. So whatever story you're trying to pull together, try to think of like, how can I compete in today's time? Like with COVID and all these negative things that are going on in the world, you really want to think of how you can market yourself. How do you position yourself to where someone's going to want to stop what they're doing and be like, hey, I want to work with this person because of X, Y, and Z. So just try to think of like how you can put yourself ahead of the other artists that are right next to you.
Also at the same time, by not like putting a bad name on yourself at the same time. Well, you know what I mean? Because I have seen some advertisements out there that try to utilize the Ukraine war to their advantage, you know, and that's just not, that's not a sound strategy in my eyes.
Yeah, you don't want to make people feel sad to give you money. I don't know. Awesome. The next one I had on this list was radio and promotions. This is also expensive, but if you have the budget for it and you can find the right person that works within your genre and their experience and they can do what they say they're going to do I would definitely invest in this. All right. Please let me know if you have questions. I'm just trying to make sure we get through this.
Yeah, we're good. No, we're good. We're good.
All right. Awesome. Okay. So next part is assets for marketing. So this is a lot of the planning that goes in, you know, 6 to 12 weeks before a release. So we're talking about the branded assets for this release. So social media assets, press photos, these are assets, ad assets. So the advertising assets could be video, they don't have to be images. So all of these things, all of these items can be broken down and really fleshed out. So it could be, you know, funny videos, it could be teaser videos for your music video. The ideas are endless, but it's really great to flesh them out. And when you go to a photo shoot, really have everything pinpointed, like, okay, the first hour I'm going to do, you know, the photo shoot with my blue guitar, or, you know, the second hour is going to be me more casual. The third hour is going to be me dressed up in a tuxedo. Like, have your makeup laid out, have your accessories laid out, and try to communicate that to your director and your cameraman, whoever's going to be on set with you. And that will really help you get a really articulated photo shoot and marketing assets. Album artwork. I guess that's kind of looped into the photo shoot. Not everyone does that within the photo shoot. Some people just get someone to do an animated shoot, or like, you know, they draw it or they create something unique. So that's an option. A lot of this stuff is actually pushed through clients overseas, and that's kind of how a lot of my clients save money. So I just suggest people that work in India or somewhere else. Not saying that India is, cheaper or something, but that's kind of what I've seen when a lot of people are on a budget, because the US seems to be a little bit higher in prices.
I mean, can you lean on things like Fiverr and
I didn't want to say that, but I was like, yeah.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah. So
There's a couple questions here. Mackenzie's just making a point, which I think is actually a great point. Joining Discord communities to sort of like interact with other people, I think is a very sort of big thing. If you're not familiar with it, it can be a bit overwhelming and daunting, but I would definitely start looking into things like Discord. I think it's actually very, very helpful. As Mackenzie said, I'm not saying it, he's saying, but I agree. Ryan asked a question. Is the reason for investing in radio because the back end is an order of magnitude greater than streaming? He always asks questions in such a perfect and polite manner. Look, I don't think you need to invest in radio all the time. I think you need to be realistic about it. Obviously, investing in radio in the US is a significant financial investment, especially for an independent artist. That could be expensive, and B, not necessarily return not give you the rate of return I think that you're looking for. I would never suggest pushing out to radio until you have a real story to tell people. So I definitely would not say it's the first thing you should be doing at all. Yeah, anyway, that's my thought. But yes, I mean, obviously a radio hit theoretically, or a song that is connecting on radio, could definitely have a financial impact that's beneficial to you. Also, Sarah, maybe just in case some people don't know, most people do, but in case some people don't know, explain what a KPI is.
Key performance indicator. So I guess we haven't talked about that yet. So the next part was planning your release and your long-term goals. So what I mean by that is it's really important to be realistic to what you're going to be doing with this release. So how many followers you get, how many streams you get across platforms, especially when you're a new artist. It's so hard to make a splash when you're just starting out, and it has to be like, you really have to know how hard it's going to be. It might not take till like your third release where you really start to see followers and streams, etc. So as long as you know that, and you're working with like a marketing agency and you're both on the same page, that's the best way, because you don't want to give someone a lot of money and they're just going to promise you numbers and it's not realistic. Like actually, let me back up. So when it comes to the KPIs, one thing that we really have to look at is the demographics and the people who are following you. So as you're doing like your first marketing release, you're going to see demographics like start to form, like what's working. So what's working on Instagram, what's working on Facebook, they can be completely different. Same with YouTube. So that's going to affect what you're posting, how you're running your ads. So that's a lot of stuff to really consider. And I don't want to throw that on someone who's just starting out. That's why I really recommend hiring someone who's in marketing or advertising to kind of help you set up those goals for the first release.
So I want to ask you a couple of quick questions that you weren't totally and not prepared for.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to give you 3 scenarios, and maybe you can talk on those. Okay. I'm about to release my first song, right? I have $500 to spend, or I have $2,000 to spend, or I have $5,000 to spend. How do I look at deploying that money in the most effective manner to hit certain KPIs? And what can I kind of expect for something like that?
Okay, so that's a hard question to answer. So if you're starting out fresh, what's important to me, if you were hiring me, is to making sure that you had a really strong ground in terms of an artist, like when it comes to branding. So I would probably allocate part of the money, $2,000 or $5,000, not $500. I could not work with that, unfortunately.
Yeah, but let's say, I wasn't hiring. Let's say I wasn't hiring Sarah.
Okay.
I got $500. Am I putting money into a lyric video? Am I putting money into some Facebook advertising? Am I putting money into some Instagram advertising? Am I going to Vegas and putting it all in red and hopefully we double that? Like, you see what I mean? Like, so obviously I think what you're saying is if I have $500 to spend, this is all DIY. Am I hiring a photographer? Am I going out and finding it? Like, am I going to Fiverr, right? You see what I mean? Like,
Yep. Yeah, I think I would really focus on marketing assets. So getting really great photos, getting a really strong album artwork. You should probably do a music video or a lyric video. I really suggest that.
some visual asset, some visualizer.
Yeah, and the music video or lyric video doesn't have to be released at the same time as the single. So it can be like a secondary prolonged marketing asset. So I really push for that. And then really I would push for advertising. So number one would be YouTube. Probably put most of your advertising budget towards YouTube. So let's just say we put $400 for advertising total. I'd maybe put $150 to YouTube, $50 for Instagram, $50 for Instagram, and leave that extra $150 or so to see what's performing best and then reallocate it.
Oh, good idea. I like that idea a lot.
Yeah. That's what we've been doing. We usually find that YouTube performs the strongest.
That's a great idea. I like that idea of sort of like holding back a bit of the budget to then reallocate when you kind of see what's connecting. That's a great idea. I love that. And so I guess really theoretically, if we're at $2,000 or $5,000, the idea is just kind of like a little bit more of an expansive version of that same. You still need the visualizers, you still need the photos, you still need that, right? But it's like maybe it's just where you're putting a bigger chunk of money is what on more into advertising, kind of going at a bit bigger and harder. Are you creating more visual digital assets?
I'd probably up the level of the quality of the music or lyric video. More advertisements, possible press, no radio, I don't think.
Well,
Yeah.
beret, I think it's beret. I'm assuming it's beret. I don't think it's beret. I think it's beret. I'm just gonna go with that. She asked, why is promoting to radio expensive? Well, because you have to, first of all, it's very hard to do on your own. You need a radio promoter. That's going to cost some money. And then they need to be able to do things like incentivize radio stations. So, you might want to go and do a radio station tour where you bring pizza and play in they probably don't do it anymore, but at one point you would literally do a radio tour, bring pizza and play for people on lunch times in their cafeterias, just trying to sort of like have people know who you are. That's a big thing. The second thing I was going to say is, however, where I think that you can take advantage of not radio promotion per se, but different other types of promotion is in trying to get onto playlists. And actually Paula last week brought something up that I thought was really poignant, and I've now just since forgotten about it. So you changed your screen. I've forgotten about it. I will remember. You're up, Sarah, because we have about 10 minutes to go, and I wanted to make sure we get through this.
Okay. This is an extension of the last slide I just showed. So radio and promotions is great. Playlisting, like Justin was just mentioning, it's expensive here in the US, but if you can find a playlisting company outside of the US, it's going to be a lot cheaper. Podcasts are a great option. So if you can market your music, or if you as an artist can get on a podcast, all for that. Creating a marketing calendar is so important. It's the consistency of putting out content, creating awareness as to who you are as an artist, to what your messaging is, creating consistent content so people know who you are. You don't want to be posting once a week, and then come back 2 months later with a crap ton of music. It's all about consistency and engaging with your audience, figuring out who your audience is, honestly. Brand partnerships can be huge for marketing. I feel like it's really, really hard to get brand partnerships as you're starting out as an artist. Doesn't mean you can't get a brand partnership. Don't ever think that. There's a lot of smaller companies, who are kind of well known, but they're just starting their own thing. They're always looking for artists or anyone who has their own business to come on board to help market them. I think right now also micro influencers and influencers are going to be a thing. So don't ever think it's impossible is what I'm trying to say.
I totally agree. I think that there's a lot of brands that want to align to up and coming, to new, to fresh faces. And I agree. It's funny, that used to be like a real sort of like negative implication was some sort of like brand partnerships, endorsements, but I think it's absolutely the way. Alexandra asked a quick question, just going back to bumping up more funds into advertising. Would you repeat the $150 investment on YouTube? Please, what exactly? I think she's asking that if you're seeing that it's working on YouTube, would you just put that $150 back into the sort of same
Yeah.
that same initiative?
Yeah, exactly. It's just because you're going to get more return. So just to give you a quick example. So one of my clients now, I think we had a $600 advertising budget. So we put 200 to YouTube and I don't know, 100 for Instagram, 100 for Facebook. YouTube was doing really, really well. Our followers, I think, increased about 400 within the first week. So that type of thing, you really want to continue because you need followers to market to. So that's just an example. So I just don't waste your money. You're competing on Facebook. Like Facebook really doesn't want you to advertise and take people away from their platform.
Yes.
So there's so much in there. It's just hard to answer it right now. We're so short on time.
I know.
Yeah.
No, you're doing great. Two questions here. Clarissa, well, let's go back because Reiner keeps trying to work this one in, so I'm gonna give it to him this week.
Okay.
Because I think now is the time. If I write in multiple genres, is it best to create an avatar brand for every genre, or take a label approach with departments in different genres? So I guess what he's saying is that, basically, I mean, I can answer the question because I do this all the time. So maybe I'll just answer this question, Sarah, if
Sure.
that's okay, Reiner, unless you specifically want Sarah's answer to this, but I'll give you mine and then she could jump in. So the thing I think that we all share in common as songwriters is that we don't really just want to be one genre, even if you're an artist. And I know we've talked about this because I actually was communicating with who is it? Because she's on this call. Hold on, I've just lost my mouse here. I was communicating with. Why is it not allowing me to move these now? Anyway, Angela, there she is. I was communicating with Angela around the fact that, okay, well, there's kind of what you do as an artist, but then there's all these other songs. Well, those songs are also great. You don't have to throw those away just because they're not you. They're not the Angela Wright project, or they're not the Young Tree project, or they're not the, Melissa Bell project. There's no reason for you to be throwing these songs away. You can create alter egos, other different projects, and use those. And yes, you're right. Create those as different brands, different avatars. They might have entirely different marketing strategies and campaigns. So yeah, I think that the idea of, I wouldn't. They would have to be very clearly defined. So like, I have like rock projects, I have like retro projects, I have, strong female projects. I have all of these different ones, and I think it's actually the best thing to do in order to really scratch that creative itch for you. So the answer to your question is, Reiner, is like, yes, if you're writing in multiple genres, I would definitely create multiple different streams, multiple different projects. You go and create, every single one of them, you create an Instagram profile. Again, for music supervisors, it's very important that they feel like there's authenticity to the projects that they're going to license. So if they're driven by creative people, it's important that they understand that each of these have their own unique identity. You go create separate Spotify for Artists profiles. Like, you do all of these things and treat them like 3, 4, 5, whatever, different projects, as if you're the record label. So I think that is actually the best way to approach it. I don't know, Sarah, if you wanted to add to that. I know our time is running short. I don't know how many slides you have left, but how are we doing?
Sorry. Yeah, no, it's all good. I'll just answer it really quick. I mean, if you're an artist, Reiner, it depends how closely related the genres are, but I see a lot of people dipping into other genres. So if there's any artists on here that are like, say, hey, I'm a hip hop artist and I'm trying to get into a little bit of the Latin flavor that's going on, like the reggaeton, like, don't be afraid to do that. Like, that stuff, you got to do stuff that's different, that's going to break the algorithm and really mess with the music industry. So if that's the case, I'm totally for it, but I agree with what Justin's saying.
Yeah, fantastic. And then Clarissa's just making notes, saying she uses playlisters.club. You pay per month, and it's added to an online ecosystem of playlist curators match your taste in music, and they decide if they want to add it. I think it's good. I mean, playlists. You also want to get the right playlist. You want to make sure that you're getting the right attention. Strong editorial people at Spotify or whatever are not hard to track down. You can easily go and start reaching out and creating some of those, do some of that work for yourself. But I think you'll probably get more authentic reaction and response from kind of doing a bit of your own work. And also, to be quite honest, I love talking to the artists. It's a bit sort of like, I don't know, there's a sort of like a non-human factor of just getting, botting out to playlists as opposed to like really feeling like they're connecting with artists. And those playlists, their favorite part is saying, "Oh, I had, Dua Lipa on my playlist before anybody even knew she was." Like they take a lot of pride in discovery there. So I would definitely lean on that. Anyway, go ahead, continue.
Am I out of time?
But well, we can. I think we can do one more page here.
Oh, it's let me see. Okay, last thing I'll say. A lot of artists don't know how much time you need for submitting for distribution. I always recommend at least 5 weeks out. If you're starting out as a brand new artist and you're just submitting to distribution companies, it's going to take them longer to set up your profile for you as an artist on all the streaming platforms. So just keep that in mind. And then you also want to submit 5 weeks out because you want to submit for playlisting. That's what everyone's excited about. And then you want to be able to claim your profiles and do all this other stuff. So I always submit at least 5 weeks out. So these are just some basics here you can read that I've suggested for clients before. But yeah, this is basically my pre-release strategy. And then I also have a release strategy and a post-release strategy. So I'm happy to send anyone on this call this document. So I'll leave my personal email in here if you want to just shoot me an email and I'll send this over to you. So you can kind of, use this as a checklist if you want.
That is a very generous gift. Thank you.
I'll send it to you, Ryan.
Yeah, perfect. Are you done? Are we done now?
Oh, I think we're over time, right?
Well, we're getting close, but do you have any more interesting pages in there?
I have a lot, so I don't want to go too much further.
Yeah, I thought you only had 9 pages.
Well, I can talk a lot about this stuff.
Yeah, you know what you're talking about, that's for sure. I mean, we did kind of go over this stuff: rollout plans, first impressions, long-term goals, creating KPIs. I think there's a lot of information here, and I hope that I didn't feel like I derailed you, because I actually think we got through a lot of really good stuff. I think you presented it in a way that was that felt really fresh compared to not better, not worse, but just a new perspective, a new twist on some of these conversations we've been having over the last couple of weeks. I do again want you guys to note that we are doing a MDIIO X event next month, so look for it so we get you signed up. What I wanted to do really quick is just talk super fast about hyper audio and what it is that we've talked about it a little bit. And I know that that's not specifically what this is about, but now that we have you here and as a captive audience, and you guys decided, all sort of basically agreed that you wanted to sort of give us a little bit of feedback. Hyper Audio is a platform that we're launching that effectively connects songwriters like you to music supervisors in a very simple transformational platform that allows them to discover your songs and license those songs for you. It's totally free to use. There's no opt-in cost for it. It's free to music supervisors to use. So the whole goal is that they come, they find your music, they license your songs. If you guys have dealt with any music placement companies, you'll know that typically they'll take 50% up to 75% of your music, of the revenue. They'll sometimes ask you to do things like retitling so that they can collect royalties also, and do all of these sorts of things. As I like to say, everybody likes to have their hand in the songwriter pockets first. And so what we've actually done is we've created Hyper Audio. It is, again, like I said, it's free to use. It's free to use with your MDIIO account, which is also free to use. All we take is a 20% success fee, which is cheaper than any publisher, which is cheaper than any song plugger, which is basically consistent with any manager, and only on the stuff that we collect for you. So there's literally no cost, no downside to jumping in and using the platform when it launches. Your music has to be on MDIIO in order for it to be available on Hyper Audio. So if you're not there, make sure that you're uploading your music and going from there. So what we've actually done is Chelsea, who's going to pop back in here, is going to put a link into the chat. She's also going to email you a link to a very quick 9-question little document. It should take you less than a minute to answer.
I've already sent out the email, so everyone should have it in their inboxes already.
Perfect. Can you also drop the link in the chat too?
Of course.
Greatly appreciated. So yeah, your feedback would really, really be amazing. And also it kind of will give you a little bit of an insight into what it is exactly that we're building here. And of course, if you have any questions about it, if you guys want to be on the sort of like the VIP whitelist to check it out as we get it launched, just email us to, and I'm going to send you my email again. It's in the chat here. There it is. It is really cool, and it is really free. And wow is an appropriate response, Mateen. Thank you very much. Look, we want to create commerce for you guys. We want to put money in your pocket. We want to find ways to put opportunities, and it's all driven by AI. Very, very cool. So every time your music is uploaded to MDIIO, it gets analyzed, added all of these automatically added all of these metadata points. And really, what's cool is the way that Hyper Audio works, which you guys probably didn't know, and there's no reason for you to know. But the whole idea is that when a music supervisor comes in, they're looking to find a song. They can either upload an MP3 that they want to match. They can enter a SoundCloud link. They can enter a YouTube link. It will analyze those songs, and it will go back to our database and find all of that music that matches it literally automatically. They don't have to think about it. It's a very, very easy, simple process of music discovery and licensing. Then on top of it, we're going to give you back what we're calling Tractivity. You can see I like using words like automatically and Tractivity, which is basically a monthly recap of all of where your music has been activated, every playlist, every how many times it's been streamed, how many times it's been downloaded, how many times it's been shared, obviously how many times it gets licensed. So it's about really professionalizing your career. So if you could see here, there's a link to a Google Doc. It will probably take less than 5 minutes for the 9 questions. And yeah, really grateful for your attendance today. If you're not signed up at MDIIO, please go to wearemdio.com, sign up. It's, again, free. Cannot stress that enough. And grateful to have you all here. So 403, we started at 303. That's pretty good. Thank you so much, everybody. Sarah, thank you very, very much for attending and sharing your incredible insights. The fact that you're being so generous and willing to share that document with people, I think is really wonderful. Thank you so much. It's fantastic. I would urge everybody to email her immediately and get this document, because this is a very incredible playbook. Yeah, please keep your eyes peeled for our next MDIIO X event sometime next month. And my name is Justin. I want to thank Chelsea from our team. I want to thank Ryan from our team. I want to thank Kevin from our team who's here, and Sarah, obviously, as well. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Thank you so, so much. Please email Sarah, get that document. Please fill out that Google Doc, and we will see you guys next month, all right?
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, everybody.